So you've readied your character sheet, and you're ready to join your party into battle. You're facing a foe, but what can you do? Well, if you're wielding a melee weapon, I'm going to teach you how to land those critical hits. Now first, we'll be starting off by learning what your weapon can do, then its weapon properties, how to do attack rolls, as well as how to do dealing damage rolls. Now, with knowing the weapon properties, you have to first know what your weapon can do. Now, you can look up the list of weapons on page 146 in your player's handbook. Now, for sake of brevity, we'll be using a character to really narrow down what weapons can do and what you can do as a certain character. Now, our character is a first level fighter, and that means he's proficient in all weapons and armor. In this case, because he's proficient in all weapons, he is proficient with any weapon that he picks from that list, which means he can add 2 to his ability rolls. In this case, his attack roll. Now, when you roll, you add your 20-sided die roll to any modifiers that you need to land a hit. Now, as a first level fighter, he has a strength of 17, so he has a strength modifier of 3, which is what he's going to need to add alongside his proficiency modifier of 2 to the roll when making an attack roll. Now, the reason why he's adding his strength is because a greatsword has the properties of two-handed as well as the heavy property. Because it does not have the finesse property, he cannot determine whether he uses his strength or dexterity, he just uses his strength. Now, two-handed just means that he uses 2 of his hands, and heavy means that he has to be of at least a size medium or larger to use the weapon correctly. We are using a medium size, so we don't have to worry about that. Now, when rolling the attack, you got the d20. We rolled a 5. Now, our enemy, in this case, has an AC or armor class of 13. To land a hit, it has to match or exceed that number. Now, with the 5, definitely doesn't make it. But let's see if our modifier changed anything. We have a strength modifier of 3 and a proficiency modifier of 2. That's another 5. That makes a total of 10. Not quite. So let's roll again. That's a 10. 10's much better. 10 plus a 3 and a 2 is a 15. That definitely hits, as it exceeds the AC of 13. Now determining that we hit with our greatsword, we will now deal damage. Now, when dealing damage, you can also look at the properties of the weapon, and in this case, the greatsword deals 2d6 slashing damage. 2d6 means it's going to be dealing 2 6-sided dies worth of damage. You have to roll those, and you have to add that with, again, 2 other or more modifiers. In this case, it will be a strength modifier and the dueling feature. Now, the dueling feature is a feature you get as a first level fighter, and it allows you to add a +2 to your damage rolls. There are other fighting styles that you can choose, but in this case, to really show off the damage purposes, we've chosen the dueling fighting style. Now we will roll those 2d6s. We rolled a 4 and a 2. So you add that total of 6. You add your strength modifier of 3, that's a 9. And then you add your dueling style, that's an 11. So you have now dealt your enemy 11 slashing damage with your greatsword. Now, we have now covered the basics of knowing your weapon and its properties by looking at the page of 146 in your player's handbook, determining anything else that you need to attack and deal damage with as a fighter or maybe any other class. But as a fighter in particular, you can look at page 170 in the player's handbook if it caught your interest. And we've also covered the mechanics of the attack rolls as well as the damage rolls. So now, you can confidently go into battle using any weapon that you feel may choose as a melee weapon and learn those critical hits.